Well, Cincinnati, it was the moment that we've all hoped would come, and many of us thought never would. The game against Columbus, knocking out the Crew in round one of the Major League Soccer playoffs, stealing a game out from under them that felt so good after the number of games they've stolen out from under us. Knocking the Crew out of the playoffs was a great feeling, but we've got more to go. We're going to talk a lot about that game. We're going to talk a little bit about the game with Inter Miami coming to town in a couple weeks tonight on this episode 445 of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Thanks for joining us. My name is Brian, hosting the show tonight here with a fun crew in Coach and Jacob. How you guys doing tonight, Coach? Start with you, man.
Great. I'm doing great, Brian. I'm excited to be on the show, which, I'm not always excited because it's hard to talk about this team when they're not playing well. But I got to be honest, it might be my top TQL moment that I've ever been to, because I was out in California when they won the Shield. So I didn't have a lot of those moments in person. And yeah, it was a good feeling. It was a good feeling to be there.
Yeah, it was. I got tickets last minute from one of our own CSTers, and didn't think I was going to be in the stadium, and got to be there and experience that. Because, to be honest, I talked to a lot of people that were like, I was going to give up my tickets. I wasn't sure about this game. I'm happy to take them. I'll be there. So what a fun night. What a fun experience. Jacob, man, it's been a while. Welcome back to the show.
All right, thanks for having me. It was a really good night. There's been a lot of hard nights in that stadium. Obviously we've been over a lot of those. But it was great to be there and watch them pull that off, and that feeling when that final whistle blew. I mean, it was just like all the weight was off of everybody's shoulders, and the noise was incredible. And it might have been a little snowy today, but I didn't care. It was a great weekend. Who cares? Snow's falling. It's cold outside, but the Crew's going home and we're moving on to the next round. So
that's right. I drove home that night, all the way back to Fort Wayne. Got home at 12:30 that morning. No rain, no snow, nothing. And I woke up to about 2 inches of snow at 8:00 the next morning. So I was a bit surprised by that. And Jacob, you and I were sitting next to each other almost and didn't realize it. One section over. So I wish I would have known that. Would have been a lot of fun. Let me ask you guys this before we get too far. We'll break down the show a little bit, but there's been this kind of debate, did Cincinnati get the monkey off their back, sending Columbus home, or was that not the game? Was that a step in that direction, or was that it? We finally did it. We're moving on and they're not. How do you guys feel about that debate?
Man, I don't believe a whole lot in monkeys on backs. So I say that if you do the thing, then it's off your back. And, because the whole point is we can never beat them when it matters, or we can't come back from being down when it matters, or we give up a lead when it matters. We didn't do any of those things in the negative. We did the things we needed to do. So yeah, monkey off your back until Crew beats FC Cincinnati 2-0 or comes back from 2 down to win 3-2 or whatever, and then it's back on, I guess.
Jacob, feel the same way or a little different?
Yeah, I mean, you're never. I shouldn't say never, but the stakes from 2023 are rarely ever going to be that high. I mean, you're talking about a finite number of matches that are ever going to be at that level, and odds are that will happen again at some point in the future. But I mean, you can't get that every season. So you have to take your opportunity when it comes to you. And they did exactly that. They got knocked down in game 2, and they came back really strong with a really resilient performance in game 3, beating them from behind. That's impressive. After not doing it basically all year, did it once all season, to do it twice in the playoffs against your biggest rival with your prodigal son returning to the club. I mean, that feels really good. I don't know if it's, I think Coach made a good point. The monkey's off your back until it's there again.
Yeah. But for now, I'm on the side of monkeys off your back. We sent them home. We came from behind. We did it in the fashion they always do it to us. So I am fully on board with that. But you guys know what? Hell was real a couple days ago, but hell is freezing over for a couple days. And if you have any concerns about your HVAC system, or if you have questions about how the cold may affect your exposed water lines, give Apollo a call, send them a text, or schedule a visit online at apollohome.com. All right, we are getting some best and worst already in the chat. And so let's go ahead and move into that now. Jacob, let's start with you, man. It's been a while since you've been on. Let's start with your best and worst tonight.
So my best is going to be just the noise when that second Brenner goal hits the back of the net. I mean, it was so loud, and it's really funny. I didn't even react to the first goal, and that had nothing to do with like what was going on. That was something earlier that morning with the Premier League, but like that noise when that goal goes in, I mean, that was an unforgettable feeling.
Yeah, no doubt. Is there anything, Jacob, that would happen tonight on the show that would cause you to celebrate like Brenner did after the second goal?
I'm not taking my shirt off or my pants off. So, no, I don't believe unless somebody tells me that I won a Powerball jackpot. Maybe then I can do the Brenner celebration.
I don't know that we've got a censor button on here. So please let's wait till after the show for that.
Yeah.
So, all right. Got your best. How about your worst?
VAR clearly allowing an offsides goal for the Crew for their only goal of the match. I mean, that's, they only have the angles that they have, but even from the angles that they have, it looks pretty clear that that was an offsides. But it's a pretty tame worst, I think.
Yeah, for sure. There wasn't a whole lot of worse in this game. Maybe there's probably a few we could pull out, but yeah, good shout there. We'll talk a little bit about that VAR, that potential offside call here later on in the show. Coach, best and worst.
Yeah, my best is Miles Robinson because, first of all, he did my favorite thing of the whole night, even better than the win in some ways. 8 seconds in, when he just leveled Diego Rossi off the kickoff and was just like, what are you going to do? I loved it. But he kept Rossi in his pocket the entire first half, pretty much until Jason Russell-Rose subbed on. And then even after that, he led the back line with constant communication. And the cherry on top is he added in a few really good long balls that sent Ender scampering down the right. I think he showed, dare I say, some DP quality in this match. So, that's my best. My worst, should I say Roman Celentano kicking a goal kick straight out of bounds in the 8th minute of stoppage time to give possession back to the Crew? No, I don't think I'll say that. I won't.
You could.
I didn't hear it. A game so good, Brian, in a game so good, you can't pick one play and call it the worst. So I'm going to go with something much worse. It was a choice that should never, ever be made by any human being. What was Lucas Angle thinking with that crustache that he was sporting? He looked like an old-timey French inspector from a black and white film. He just needed like a monocle and a curvy pipe or something. I mean, I paused my video. I was rewinding and I spent more time on that than dissecting the goals. Like, is it drawn on? Did he have to get special tools to get it so thin, just barely on his upper lip? I just don't get it.
Yeah, that's something I missed. I haven't seen that one, but I'll say this as a dad who has a son that plays volleyball, I see those a lot on the volleyball court. He does not have one, thank goodness, but man, it happens a lot out there. So yeah, I'll trust you. I don't love the look, but there it was. Let's get some of the best and worst in the chat here. Let's start off with Rupesh Sharma's best. The transition into the ad read tonight. Thank you, Rupesh, for that shout as your best of the week. We do have we've got Pace, SJ Pace in the chat agreeing with the VAR offside. Best celebration of Bailey after seeing how much it meant to so many people as we sung Columbus out of the building. Yeah, that's a big one for sure. Here's Eric Schmitz. The quick Brenner equalizer was the best. It changed everything. Worst is failure to possess and kill off this game more effectively. Coach, that was probably something you would have said if you had a chance to say it, but you didn't say it. So there you go. We had another one here. Best being able to silence the Columbus fans. Worst, still some uninspired offense. And we'll talk a little bit about that tonight too, because it looked a little bit better. Like it's moving in the right direction. Maybe it's not quite where we hope it would be as fans, but I think we're getting there. I'll say this. My best is 2 solid team goals. Like these were not we've seen players, create for themselves. Denke many times this year, Evander many times this year, Brenner a couple times this year, creating shots for themselves. But these were two solid team goals. One coming off a corner, took a deflection. Brenner's in the right spot at the right time. Denke's holding off a man, and Brenner is able to put it in. So pretty fantastic first goal to equalize. And then that second goal, which I don't want to get too much into now, we'll talk about it later. Just fantastic play all around, intercepting a ball across, all that stuff. It was great. So good, two solid team goals. My worst on the night, we talked about Diego Rossi a lot. Was it 8 seconds in? You said Miles Robinson leveled him. Did he really level him, or did he just kind of run close to him and Diego Rossi fell down? I don't know. Either way, my worst is Chris Penso allowing him to talk his ear off all game without a card, without a captain ban. He allowed too much, I think, from Diego Rossi, including the 10 or 15 minutes after the game when he had the ear of all three referees. Like, I just don't know that you can allow that. I'm not a referee. I don't know. But as a fan of the home team, watching the other team's number 10 out there jawing with the referee after the game, what's he complaining about? I don't know. That's my worst of the night. And it happened a lot on the night.
Brian, I agree with you, but I also want to give Penso a little bit of credit because even though he should have carded him for the constant whining and crying, credit to Penso for not falling for the dives, because Rossi didn't just stop 8 seconds in. There were several other times that he went down. There was one where he went down in the box and like laid with his face on the turf and just put his arms out like up in the air. Yeah. Like he thought he was going to get a penalty. And there was one where he, kicked the crap out of Miles Robinson in the corner late in the game and then complained that he didn't get a throw-in awarded or something. I mean, it was like he was diving, he was complaining the whole night, and at least Penso didn't buy it, whereas Guido in the second game absolutely did. We saw off the jump every time Rossi hit the floor, Guido was calling a foul, issuing cards, whatever.
Yeah. Not your voice, that comment from last week was in my ear as I watched this game, is talking about Guido buying into the drama of all of it. And Penso, you're right, did not. And even a couple times, Diego Rossi falls and Penso just looks at him and says, no, get up. We're not having that tonight. So I will give him credit for that. He did keep control of that aspect of the game. I just wish, and it didn't end up mattering in the end, but allowing a player to do that over and over. And we've benefited from that as Cincinnati fans in years past, right? Didn't love when Lucho Acosta did it, but it played to our benefit at times. So I know why Diego Rossi does it. I just don't love it, whether it's on our team or not. Let's get into the match a little bit more. We've already kind of started down that road a little bit. If you have thoughts, questions, comments as you watch live tonight, go ahead and drop them in the chat. We've got a couple coming in already, which we'll get to as we go. First half was a bit of a battle, back and forth, a little frantic at times. Coach, as you saw that first, let's start with the first 10, 15 minutes, because we talked a lot about that last week before Kubo gets the card later in the first half. Like, how was Cincinnati adjusting to the press? Columbus didn't seem to come out with the same, they came out with intensity, but not with the same level of what we saw in game 2, but it still caused Cincinnati to play a little bit frantically. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the first 10 minutes of the game, especially, FCC was very frantic, which led to a lack of possession. But I think the good thing was it wasn't a lack of possession where they'd lose it and then they'd sit back. What ended up being, it was frantic. They'd give the ball away and then they would harry and chase Columbus and try to win it back. So it ended up being a little bit frantic on both sides. And then special credit in that first 15, 20 minutes to Brenner, Kevin Denke, and Evander doing a really good job of helping FCC transition and hold the ball when they could. There was a play where the ball was like after a corner, it popped out and Denke was kind of chasing it and it was over his shoulder. And like any striker would just try to head that ball a little bit further or just get a toe on it and click and kick it further down the field. But he like chopped it and held on to the ball and let his team transition forward and made a pass. And he did enough of that. There was a really good transition where Brenner like chested the ball and spun at the midway line and just dusted a defender and carried it forward. Things like like that were allowing them, when they did have the ball, to transition forward, as opposed to the game 2, where when they didn't have the ball, they were constantly sitting in their own defensive third. It's like they were turning the ball over with just kicking it long, or turning it over actually in the middle third, as opposed to transitioning them forward. So I think that helped settle the game down.
Yeah, Jacob, you were there in the stadium watching the game. As you watched those first 10, 15 minutes or so, what were you seeing, I guess, from your vantage point? Did it look Cincinnati playing a little frantically? I agree with Coach Denke, held up the ball pretty well a number of times. Didn't feel, to me at least, that it was as chaotic and out of control. You feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, defensively, Crew were on the ball a lot in those first 10 minutes. I mean, they had a lot of possession early on in that match, and despite that possession, they weren't really getting into very dangerous areas, and that has a lot to do with, I think, how well organized the back line was. I think everybody knew what their plan was. Knew what their job was, and they stuck to it very well. And I always think in these derby matches, as long as you can ride out the first 10, 15, 20 minutes of the match, I think that's when the match really begins. So for them to be as organized as they were really early on, I think that was huge for them, especially not having the ball as much early on.
Yeah. The first 10, 15 minutes, one team, you're right, always comes out a little bit more aggressive than the other. And can you ride the storm and then take your chances as you go forward the next 15 minutes or 20 minutes or so? Coach, maybe you said it earlier on one of our shows this season that like the game really happens in the first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes of a game. And we saw that, I think, a little bit in this game as teams were getting a little bit more aggressive in the final third, both ways in the last 10 minutes. And then the extra 10 minutes that were played at the end of the game was a little crazy number there. So yeah, good to see him ride out that first 10 minutes. I was, not as nervous as I was the last time watching that game. A little bit more control. They made the adjustments they needed to. I think one thing that helped is Amundsen getting an early yellow card in that match that held off, I think, that attack and that aggression, maybe because was it Arfston? I think it was Arfston, wasn't it? Or was it Amundsen?
Amundsen.
It was. Okay. I was thinking it was Arfston, but anyway,
that's because you put Arfston in the rundown and I changed it.
Did I? My bad. Thank you. Thank you. I was thinking that whole game, it was him. I was like, go at him. He's already got a yellow. And yeah, I was wrong the whole time. So anyway, but yeah, I do think that held off Columbus a little bit and their aggressive nature, because if the cards are starting early and the yellow team is getting them this time instead of the blue team is getting them this time, I do think that changes things a little bit.
Yeah, and we've given Evander some shtick on this show lately of not being like the Evander that is an MVP candidate. And you could say once again, I mean, no goals, no assists, what's going on? But that yellow card, I think, is a perfect illustration of these moments. And that's why I added him in with Brenner and Kevin Denke and transitioning the ball forward. Is he received that ball, took contact from Amundsen as the ball's bouncing, then flicks it over his head and spins around him and starts to dribble. And Amundsen has to drag him down because the calm he showed on the ball, instead of just like getting rid of it or coughing it up or going down and trying to draw a foul, actually allowed the team to transition forward and put a key defender on the opponent's on yellow card watch.
Yeah. Brilliant play. It goes, some days it goes Evander's way and some days it doesn't, but he does play with that calm on the ball and let the game come to him. We've talked about that a lot. Speaking of letting the game come to him, there were a couple chances Cincinnati had in that first half that I remember watching live, and then I walk away and went, they didn't really do much in the first half. But they actually did. There was some good play at the top of the box. I believe it was Evander played a ball. Was it Evander played the ball out to Echenike in like the 25th minute? Echenike sends a cross back to Evander, and Evander has that like flying scissor kick opportunity on goal. He didn't hit it quite as hard as I think he had hoped to, but made Schulte make a play on the ball. Ball squirts out, goes out of bounds, throw in to Guidi, who then upon receiving the ball turns and just misses the far post. So it was a good series from Cincinnati there. So We talk about maybe being a little anemic still on offense, but the chances are starting to come. It seems like those guys are beginning to click up top. Coach, what are you seeing in there? Is it their movement? Is it their trust in one another? Or was it just a one-off game that things just looked like they were working better?
No, to me, I thought it was way better game offensively. Like, I'm actually a little bit scratching my head at the anemic offense comment, because, in a playoff game when things are inherently tighter, to generate, 16 shots and nearly 1.5 XG is 2 goals. Like, those are all good numbers, right? Like, it's not prolific. It's not Miami playing those scrubs in Nashville good, but we didn't get to play those scrubs in Nashville, right? So I think that the thing that changed here was actually emphasizing getting touches in deep on the right-hand side. Most of them were with Ender, but it happened with Jabari too. When he came on, it was a constant idea that we're going to target that soft spot, because FC Cincinnati knows Arston loves to bomb forward. And Amundsen is not a great defender. Like, he's pretty good in possession, but he's not a good 1v1 defender. So constantly getting into that space. Evander got touches in the corner of the box. Buka got touches in the corner of the box there. That idea. And then when they were in the final third, trying to switch the ball side to side. So that scissor kick that you talked about from Evander, that started when Guidi was able to kind of like receive the ball at the top of the box and float a pass like over to the left to Brenner, like over a defender's head, like a switch of play in the final third to make the defense have to turn their hips, turn their eyes, and then the ball switched back over to the other side to Ender, and they're doing it again. And that allows a guy like Evander to find a soft spot in that box in the defense unmarked, because the defense can't just be like, yeah, I know where you are. I'm going to stand here and grab your shirt and just stand here, because they're having to turn and try to follow the ball. So touches deep and switching the play, I thought, made the difference. And I do think you can do that against a team like Miami if you come out with that game plan and don't just say like, oh, well, what we want to do is just get the ball to Evander in the final third and he'll make things happen.
Yeah. Jacob, what do you think of, as I watched the game, Buka was much more involved in this match than he seemed to be in the last match. We even talked about it on last week's show. They didn't talk about him. They didn't say his name many times. We're 12 minutes in, he had 2 touches on the ball. Like, he seemed to be much more involved in advancing the ball forward and even putting balls through in dangerous places this game. What do you make of his play?
I thought he played really well. Sometimes with midfielders, you don't say their name a lot, but because maybe you don't notice what the little things that they're doing in the midfield, if that's curtailing a crew attack, or if that's just playing little 1-2 balls in and around those areas and maybe drawing a foul. But I thought he was really excellent. He was getting on the end of the edge of the boxes for some of those attacks, which for him, that's really good. I mean, like, I think he's really key in some of those areas because he's got really good close control, and he's really good at those little 1-2 passes with the other forwards as well. So I thought he had a really good performance. I thought everybody really was really excellent in this match. Just everybody knew exactly what their job was, and they did it. And it was just impressive to watch.
Yeah. We got a comment here that Buka's level of play seems to dictate the entire team's level of play. And I feel like there's something to that, even from the get-go. And maybe it's more Evander getting in spaces that opens up other spaces for Buka. But it seems when Buka is on his game and he's running the midfield, the team plays so much better. Coach, I'd just throw this question at you. We didn't plan to talk about this, but as we talk about Pavel Buka, is it chicken or the egg here? Like, if the game opens up, Buka has a good game, or Buka has a good game and it opens up the game for the other players?
I think that it's the latter. I think it's Buka having a good game, but I don't think it's all down to him. I think that there are some, but the analogy of piano players and piano carriers, right? Buka is a piano carrier, which means when he's carrying the load defensively or in ball progression because the center backs aren't doing it or guys aren't beating the first line of pressure on the dribble, then he gets sucked deep. And then what happens when the ball transitions forward is he is either having to try to work all the way up there to get touches, or FC Cincinnati's attacking shorthanded because it's just Evander is the only one up there. So I think it is circumstantial, but when a guy like Buka has 7 touches in the opponent's box, which he had in this match, I mean, Evander only had 4. Like, that's how you know SC Cincinnati is doing what they want, because Buka is not having to sit so deep. He's getting forward. He's getting those touches. And he didn't do a lot with them when he was up there, the offensive third touches, but being a constant threat there, draws a center back to you, makes a wing back pinch in, draws a midfield like Nagme deeper into the box. So it gives a guy like Evander space at the top, all those things. And so it is both a symptom and something that is going to cause the symptoms to happen. But I think actually much more of the latter. And as Buka goes, so goes the team, because he is the chief piano carrier in there.
Yeah. That's a good call. Switching to Columbus in that first half, didn't have a whole lot of chances. There was one that ball was bouncing around a little bit. I think soon after Jason Russell-Rowe comes in, he gets a touch across, and maybe Moreira gets a foot on it, gets it past Roman Celentano, who's playing a little bit high on the near post. Denke knocks it away. There's a chance it could have gone for Columbus. It didn't. My favorite was the chance that Diego Rossi got, and that's a name that we'll say over and over tonight, not because we're celebrating him, but the top of the box, he hits a ball, and I was, in the stadium, you can't hear it, but I watched it back, and the commentators were like, Rossi with a shot that does not bother Celentano, loved it, put it right in his gut. Celentano grabs that ball, and just love the commentary on that one. But they did start creating a little bit more late in the half as Russell-Rowe comes in, and then even in the second half, getting down the side of the field seemed to be their better opportunities than down the middle, to get that ball across to a player like Jason Russell-Rowe. So we'll talk maybe more about that and what he brought to the field when he subbed on in the Talking Tactics segment. We do want to get to second half a little bit here. Roman Celentano with some key saves, right? 57th minute, the Picard header, that was a weird one. Jacob, we talked a little bit about that before show. Is Picard, is it something about the haircut? He didn't get the power behind it, or was it the pace of the cross that came in? Like, what was it? That ball should have been in the back of the net. Roman made a great play on it, but man, he should have done better with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I have some friends who are Crew supporters, and I asked them, I'm like, what happened? And they were like, yeah, it's a haircut. It's just he couldn't get enough on it because the haircut. No. The funny thing is, from where I was sitting and with how the crowd was standing, I couldn't see Picard when he headed the ball, but I knew he was in a position where I'm like, when I can't see what's going on, I always look at the net to see if it ruffles, to see if it moves at all. And I'm just waiting because I'm expecting it to ruffle, and it's gonna be 1-0 to Columbus. And then I hear the crowd explode, and I'm like, Roman Celentano just made a huge save. And then I see the replay, and I'm like, how? How did he had the entire goal to aim at, kind of. Not really, but he did have some space to head it, not it past Celentano, and he just hits him in the basically in the hip, and it just falls right into Celentano's hands, and it's a little lucky, but it's also skillful for Roman Celentano to make himself as big as possible and save that as well.
And come out and close that angle so that by the time that he heads it, there isn't a ton of space for him to get it by Roman. Like, I was really impressed with, I don't know if you can call it technique, because it really is just like hands out wide, just get as big as you can. It like reminded me like those suits that you wear and you like jump on the wall and try to stick it at like after prom. Like they look like a flying squirrel. Like Roman was just like, get big and fly forward. But yeah, credit to him for closing the space, because he knew there was only one dangerous guy on the pitch right then, and he did what he needed to do.
Coach went back to after prom on that one. My goodness. Good.
But side note, can I say that was a bit of luck, right? It's a bit of luck. Yeah. And absolutely. Why would we ever consider firing a coach if that luck goes against him in that moment? That's I'll just leave that there, because you knockout tournaments require luck to win. Go back and watch every MLS Cup ever happen that you can find access to. There are moments of luck for whatever team that wins, that, it happens. It's not all just brilliant skill. The other team has a brain fart and, gives away a penalty or some miraculous save or whatever. So it happens.
Yeah, I just threw an image up on the screen. One of our photographers, CST photographers, Rob Moore, got a photo of that sequence of events. So if you're watching live, you can see Picard's hair flying up, looking at the goal, thinking it's going in, and Roman with just getting big and getting his hand out there. So lucky
and Angle had it covered anyway.
I was going to say, I wonder if Lucas Angle gets a foot on that, if that gets past Roman Celentano.
It looks like he does. He's in the right spot at the right time, I think, on that one. That was good. Roman with another save, I think late in the 89th minute, with a save on who else? Picard again, trying his version of the flying scissor kick late in the game. Celentano dropping on that ball, saving it. So I thought he played pretty well defensively. Ball distribution is something that we've talked about all season and seasons past, that maybe we'll talk about that late in the extra time period. But let's talk about the goal that Columbus scored, right? Lucas Angle goes down in the 60th or 61st minute. And I didn't see what happened. I just saw him sitting on the ground, and I looked at the guy sitting next to me, stranger sitting next to me, and I said, do you think he's hurt? Or he was told, like, if we don't get a chance before the 60th minute, go down, pretend to be hurt so we can get somebody in. Like, I don't know what it was. He was maybe cramping, whatever. He comes in, Orishano gets out there, and the ball goes directly over Orishano's head. And I thought, oh man, they just exposed our defensive weakness immediately, right? But as you watch that play back, we talked about it a little bit pre-show. I don't know that Orishano, live, it looked terrible. I don't know that his positioning was really poor on that one. Who's expecting a ball from Patrick Schulte on the other side of the field to get theirs? Great ball. The defense definitely was playing a high line, and it was looked at for offside, right? Coach, as you looked at that play happen live or on the replay, what did you see? Was it offside? And if it wasn't offside, like, could we have done anything differently?
Yeah, so first thing is Luca Orishano is far to the inside, but he's there for a reason. Teenage Hadebe had dropped into midfield to follow Diego Rossi, which was a tactic they did all night. I'll talk about that more in talking tactics. But so he was pretty far off of Herrera, but I think he was supposed to be. And I would say, if anything, I would complain that Miles Robinson was so far away from Jason Russell-Rowe when the first ball was kicked, because, that ball, you're expecting it to go towards JRR to win a header. So Miles Robinson, if he's tighter there, can he recover a little better once that ball's in behind? But outside of that, when you actually look at the freeze frame, I don't understand how you could say anything but that is offside. Like, I understand, like, well, we're not going to draw lines like in England, and there's not, but you look at the cut of the grass, and unless those lines are cut at an angle, which I'm very certain they are not, he seems to be a full half yard, plus he is leaning towards the goal. So, like, again, I get you can't actually tell how far he is leaning, but if you just look at physics, like, he's leaning towards the goal and his feet are probably offside anyway. So part of his body is offside, almost certainly. That said, I get, like, the meta conversation that, like, we don't want to be like England with the lines. And it's like, if it's not caught on the field, unless it's really obvious, I just don't understand how you don't say that's obvious, unless, like, you look at Miles Robinson's left foot and you think it's kind of extended maybe, but I'm not buying it.
Yeah. Live, Jacob, as you watch that, is that you thinking that's offside? I didn't think it was live, but so I was surprised when they were reviewing it. And then I saw the images afterwards and I thought, how did they miss it?
So here's the funny thing. I was wearing an FC Cincinnati beanie. As soon as the goal went in, I leaned back in my chair and pulled it all the way over my eyes and just sat there for a minute as the Columbus fans they're literally sitting right above me and I can hear them. They're just celebrating. They're going nuts. The instant I pull it up over my eyes, I look at the big screen and they're like, it's under VAR review for offsides. I'm like, he was offsides, and I didn't know anything about it. And then they point to the spot and I'm like, well, I guess he wasn't. So my friend texted me a picture, and he's like, I drew a line. He did. He drew a line, and I was like, wow, he looks like he's offsides, doesn't he? So in the moment, I'm like, wow, that's huge. They blew the call, but I didn't have enough time to react because pretty much instantly, I mean, they get an equalizer right back.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the 67th minute, Evander does well to win a corner. He runs, or Denke, I think, wins the corner. Evander goes over to take it, plays it across, takes the deflection. Did Guidi, I think it was Guidi, did he get a head on it? Was the defender, the Columbus defender that
teenage.
Teenage. Okay. Yeah. So there was a collision there. Did it come off his shoulder? Did it come off the defender's back? I don't know, but the ball made its way across to Brenner running in from the back post. Denke's holding off Zawadzki, right? Keeping Brenner onside. Then Denke steps like, maybe this is my ball. Like it comes off Brenner and Brenner just touches it in. Good team goal, like all around. Cincinnati, how many set pieces have they scored this season? It has not been many. So the fact that we score on Columbus immediately after off a set piece, I think was a good rebound. The only thing that I did not like about that was, it had nothing to do with the game itself. It was my son had stepped away to use the restroom, and he was standing in line and missed both of those goals. Like, you're at a playoff game and poor kid misses both goals. He did get to see the game winner, in the 86th minute that Brenner put in. But let's talk about that second goal too, and then we'll go back if you guys have thoughts on team play on this, that as we talk about it. Buka, I think, has the ball. He gets lost in possession. Buka does well to win it back, plays it across, a long ball immediately across to Jabari, who heads it down. Like, what 6'4", 6'6", whatever striker is going to take a ball that's played beautifully to you and pass it off to another guy, a midfielder that's in front of you? Maybe he's expecting that ball back. I don't know, but Brenner makes a beautiful run in. Guidi holds his player off, passes it to Brenner. Brenner with a first touch that, like, I didn't notice it live, but as I watched it, the replay, like, it was sneaky good. That first touch, and he puts it back post for the win, game winner. Like, two fantastic team goals on that one. So, Coach, to your point earlier about the way the guys are playing, and they're running off of each other a little bit more in this game than we've seen previously. Just fantastic job up top from those guys.
Yeah, and back to the idea of actually playing like what I'll call big balls in the final third, and I don't mean that like it sounded, but I'm playing like big passes. I'll say, the idea of it doesn't always have to be like you got to tiki-taka it or you got to play it in behind. Switching the ball in attack, and the way that when Buka hit that pass towards Jabari, like several things could have happened. Jabari could have tried to bring it down and shoot. He could have tried to head it towards goal. Both of those probably ill-advised. He could have gotten fouled. It could have just let it clang it off of him, and then it's in the box and maybe it gets poked in. It worked out really well, but having the courage to go ahead and hit that pass and not worry about turning the ball over. And then, yeah, huge credit to Jabari to not just play first time there, but like a cushioned header is a nice bit of skill for a 6'4" guy, right? And then again, Guidi to shield the defender and to not panic. And then not just Brenner's first touch, but what he does with his body leading up to that first touch, like breaks Moreira's ankles. If you go back and watch the replay, Moreira is certain that Brenner's going to pass that back across to the left to either Jabari or I don't know, somebody else running into the box. And he sells out to block that. And Brenner's first touch just chops it. And then just like so quick between first and second touch to shoot that. It's a great finish, but it was a better build up.
Yeah. Jacob, anything to add to that?
I don't, it kind of befuddles me that FC Cincinnati don't score more goals off of corner kick situations. First off, they have some massive dudes. Teenage Adabe is huge. Now, Teenage Adabe doesn't seem to be able to jump very high for some reason, but he's a big dude, and they've got Evander, who's on corners, who's supposed to be great on delivery. So you'd think they scored more from those, but I'm not going to complain too much about them not scoring more off of set pieces. I mean, both goals were really well taken, and the first goal especially, I think was obvious. This might sound like a Captain Obvious thing to say, but it's so immense how quickly they scored that equalizer. Because I think if they don't score that right then and there, the game gets a little bit hard. It gets much harder from there for FC Cincinnati, because I think Columbus would have really clamped down on them and made things really difficult, and they would have been diving a lot more, making Chris Pinto make those decisions. And I think, and the second goal is incredible. I mean, the ball that Buka played to Jabari was, I mean, it was inch perfect. I was surprised that the center back, who was near-ish to Jabari, didn't try to put more pressure on him before he headed that ball. I mean, he just kind of backed off and stood there waiting for him to do something. And I guess he kind of has to do that because he doesn't know what Jabari's going to do in that situation. But he didn't put any pressure on him. But Guidi holding off a center back and giving him just the slightest little poke back. I mean, it was awesome to see.
Yeah, and it's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. The first 5 minutes following a goal, like that's when, as a team who got scored on, that's when you have to punish him, when the other team's still feeling good, resting on their laurels, right? So I think you nailed that.
Yeah, and I just didn't expect it to come off a corner. Like maybe Denke does something different and scores, but the way he fought for that ball, I think, showed that I mean, he was hungry. They were hungry. They wanted that ball. There were a couple subs in the game that changed tactics a little bit, which I want to get to. But first, before we get to our Talking Tactics segment, we got to thank our sponsor, Beyond Exercise, who is a local physical therapy and fitness business that helps people stay active and injury-free. They've helped some of our local MLS, MLS Next Pro, and FCC Academy players with their health and performance needs. Check out their suite of services at gobeyondexercise.com. All right, Coach, I want to pass it to you on this Talking Tactics segment. There's a couple things that we could talk about, but I want to just give it to you and let you run with it because people seem to love what you bring to the show.
Well, the question was posed about, how Cincy, because he is such a tactical, brilliant manager, the God's gift to MLS, even how he made a first half substitution to bring Jason Russell-Rowe in, not even wait until halftime to change the tactics to get the better hand of Noonan. And then Noonan did adjust with any subs. And then when he subbed later, it was Jabari for Denke, which seemed kind of weird. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the subs and the tactics for that. So first of all, the Jason Russell-Rowe sub, let's call it what it was. So they say it was for injury, and I believe that. I think that it was Taha Habroon was kind of limping off a little bit. But the reason why Cincy didn't bring a winger on for Habroon is because what we talked about at the top of the show. Miles Robinson had Diego Rossi in his pocket. Rossi got no space playing as a false nine, because Noonan set the team up and said, hey, Miles, follow Rossi as far as he goes. If he goes and stands at the top of the 18 to get the ball from his goalkeeper, follow him there. And Miles did that a couple times and won the ball off of him at the edge of the offensive third and sprung like little mini opportunities going forward. So when Cincy puts in Jason Russell-Rowe, it's to try to occupy Miles, who was having a phenomenal match, and let Rossi have a little more time and space. The interesting thing here is Noonan did not adjust his tactics, other than from what I could tell, and this might have been Noonan, it might have been the players, just said it doesn't always have to be Miles. And now what you saw is there was still always a free center back. Sometimes it was Haglund, sometimes it was Teenage following Rossi. And what would happen is if Miles went out of the center, Teenage and Haglund would pinch into the middle like two center backs in a back four, and they would account for Jason Russell-Rowe and just communicate. When it was one of the other guys on the outside, the center backs would slide like two center backs in a four. So then it became like cat and mouse. Can Jason Russell-Rowe get into the space vacated by the center back quick enough to create a chance before they adjust? And that Picard header, that's exactly what happened. Nick Haglund follows Rossi out into the midfield, and Jason Russell-Rowe darts in behind, and they split the ball in. Now Miles is chasing him, and Teenage is trying to slide. Teenage slides too far and leaves Picard open in the middle, right? But they didn't make those mistakes a lot because the communication was excellent. And I went back and watched, because there's this idea that Miles doesn't communicate, and I think that has been a problem for him. But I saw him in that match pointing at Rossi and telling when Haglund and when Teenage should go and follow him. So I think that it is something he's working on and getting better. So Now let's talk about the Noonan subs, because first off, I think we do have to talk about the Orishano sub, because Engel was on a minutes restriction, so this was a forced sub. But we talk about Noonan not going for the game all the time and playing conservative, and Noonan could have absolutely pulled a Noonan there and put in Alvis Powell to either play on the left or switched Ender over to the left and been like, he's more of a winger anyway, and put Powell in on the right. That's the conservative pick. He put in Orishano because he wanted to unbalance. They'd been attacking up the right all night, and they wanted to pull Morera back defensively a little bit. And I think that worked to a certain extent. Luka didn't generate a ton, but he did enough. Like he had a couple moments up there. And then from there, then you see when Jabari comes on for Kevin Denke. That was one I was like, what is going on? You're facing possible penalties in that moment. The game is tied. It's your star striker, your best striker, because even though Brenner it might be as good, he's not the star in that too, at least not right now. Maybe after that match he is. But what you think about is, okay, tactically before that, Kevin Denke had just stayed up top as a high target outlet, and he was doing that role really well, holding play up. Brenner was not having a great match offensively outside of the goal, but he was playing awesome defensively. He was tracking back and helping Morera as he just flew forward up the right whenever he wanted, because, there was no attack on the FC Cincinnati left to pin him back until Orishano came in. So instead of changing tactics, what happened was it sounded like Noonan was going to change tactics. If you believe the press conference, Noonan said he was going to take Brenner out, but Brenner asked and said, "Coach, I'm going to score, leave me in." And he saw it in his eyes and decided to do it. Lovely story. Maybe it's true. But what happened is the Jabari for Denke sub didn't really change those tactics. It allowed Brenner to keep tracking Morera, which helped a lot defensively. And all it did was it kind of injected pace and energy up top. And I'm not going to say that it made the total difference, but it definitely helped out. I mean, Jabari got the assist on the winning goal. And what Jabari also did, which I think has to be a coaching point, is he played a ton of one-touch hold-up play. That ball was pinging out to him, and he had a play on the sideline where he did the thing where you chest it with force to get it to a player instead of trying to bring it down. The cushioned header to Guidi for I called it assist. We'll give him the hockey assist there.
There you go.
He was playing one-touch hold-up play. And I think that was probably the coaching staff telling him, look, you're settling into the league. You don't have to do everything. Just knock the ball down for us. You're huge and you're fast. Just knock the ball down to us, right? So again, I'm not going to say it made the difference, but it certainly can't say that it didn't, because he was a key contributor. And so I think this was a rare case, because I don't love Noonan subbing very, very often. This is a rare case where he got it right.
Yeah. So I was a little confused by that sub as well. Jacob, as you saw Jabari step up, who do you think he was coming in for?
The only way that I could, when I saw Jabari on the sidelines, I'm like, well, the only sub that actually makes any kind of sense would be Kevin Denke. I didn't think that Pat Noonan was going to do that. I didn't think he had, to put it crudely, I didn't think he had stones to do that, to pull off your DP, high transfer fee striker and put on a guy who's on loan. I didn't dude, Clifford nailing it. I mean, but that's the only thing that made sense in my head. I'm like, it's the only thing that actually makes sense in this kind of setup is he's going to pull Kevin Denke off, because I thought Brenner was causing way too many issues for the Columbus Crew to pull him off. So, but the board went up and everybody collectively is looking left and right at each other like, what the hell is going on here? He's pulling Kevin Denke off for Ayoub Jabari. That's crazy. But like Coach just said, it's one of the rare cases where it's a stroke of kind of genius by Pat Noonan, and it worked out really well.
Yeah. Yeah, I looked at my son. I said, it's got to be Denke. It can't be Brenner. It can't be Evander. It's got to be Denke, unless he's going for it and he's pulling a defensive mid, or he's pulling one of our 5 backs and he's putting another striker in there. I couldn't see it. But yeah, to Coach, your point, it worked out. It worked out well. He did exactly what he was asked for. Jacob, and I think you said it. Maybe you said it, or maybe somebody. No, I think you said it earlier in the episode tonight. Everybody came in and knew what their role was. And everybody did exactly what was expected. Nobody tried to do too much. Nobody, was out of position too often. They knew exactly what was expected, including the substitutes that came in. Jabari being that one guy that knew exactly what his role was, played it well, and come out on top in this match. So kudos to Pat Noonan and his substitution patterns all season, right, Coach? Or maybe just this one game. I don't know.
Nope. The monkey off the back all season. He's great now. Just this one game changes everything. If he lost this game, he should be fired. But now that he won this game, greatest coach ever.
Right. That's exactly right. But I do think there's something too, like we've been on his case all season. Let's give him some credit where credit's due in making a sub like that and being willing to pull a guy like Denke in a game like this that really matters to change some things up a little bit. We've got some questions in the chat that I've been saving to talk a little bit about. The one from Abraham Garcia says, what's going on with Orishano? Not sure where that is coming from other than, the guy hasn't been the same this year as he was last year. Any thoughts on that, Coach Jacob?
Yeah, I actually want to say I really liked Orishano's match on second watch in the stadium. I was kind of like, especially after the goal, I was like, oh, the whole time. But then you go back and you watch, and down the stretch, he made some really key, I don't know if I want to call them defensive plays because they weren't like, he wasn't like standing up a defender, but like he was receiving the ball off a deflection or something and dribbling out of pressure or making the right touch to free himself half a yard to play a ball up the line instead of playing it out for a throw or losing the ball. So I actually thought that he had a pretty capable match overall, especially when you consider the fact that that first goal was offside. And even if it wasn't offside, which it was, probably wasn't mostly his fault.
Yeah. There was that moment here that SJ Pace is referring to that, he steals the ball in the back. And I just thought, okay, play that ball quick. Let's get it out. And he takes on a player and beats him. And I'm like, and then he takes on another player and beats him. Then he gets into space because he beats those two guys and then pushes forward quickly at pace and got the team moving in a pretty good direction there. So do appreciate the talent that guy has when he has the ball at his foot. Just, man, I wish he could get the ball, find the net a little bit more.
I thought there were a couple moments where you saw the flashes of Orishano from last season in that match, especially that run that you were talking about where he takes on two defenders and he beats both of them and then he's off. And you're just like, that player is still in there somewhere. And I don't know, what it was this season in particular, if it was just like all the new players or what it was, but that player Luca Orishano is still in there somewhere. So he's still a useful player to have around. Absolutely.
No doubt. Shout out to Lucas Engel playing a big role defensively in this match. We've covered that a little bit tonight. Great game against Columbus, but the job is not done for Cincinnati. There's more to go, and I've got to find. There we go. There's more to go. Miami's coming to town, and Miami's coming off a 4-0 win in Game 3 against Nashville. Right. So we look at this team that's coming in. They've got star power. They've got firepower. They've got Leo Messi, who in 10 games against Nashville, like I think they said on the broadcast I was listening to, like those two teams have met each other more than any other team in recent history have met each other 10 times in the last number of seasons. Messi has 15 goals and 4 assists in those 10 games just against Nashville. You contrast that with Messi's 3 games against Cincinnati. He has 0 goals and 2 assists. And those 2 assists came in late in a match in the U.S. Open Cup. So not even in MLS play. So there's something about Miami that doesn't scare Cincinnati. They've got the Jordi Alba that can put a ball on a dime. They've got Messi. They've got Suarez, who's coming back, I believe, off of his suspension. Was just the one game. So he's back in this game. What do you see? What adjustments or what is it that Cincinnati does that slows Miami down, at least at home? It's a different story when we play there. But what are you expecting to see Cincinnati do that they've done consistently against Miami to slow down that attack?
In my mind, they give Messi the appropriate amount of respect, which is to say they don't play scared of him. They don't like flock multiple players to him every time he touches the ball. But they try to remain aware of him at all times. I talked about how the game plan to treat Diego Rossi, and Diego Rossi is no Lionel Messi, right? But it's a similar game plan. It's like let's never not know where Messi is. That might be important, guys, right? I think that's important. I think having guys that are willing to bump Messi off the ball, in the very first time that FC Cincinnati played Messi at TQL, Nick Hagland, I think just was so good at bumping Messi and just like not fouling him, not even enough to where Messi was really complaining, but just putting him off his timing on his runs. And I think those kinds of things just can really help you. And then as well as going forward with force, like not leaving players back worried what Miami is going to do offensively. Like if Messi gets half a yard, a quarter of a yard, he's going to score probably. So you got to go make sure you're scoring on the other end to make sure that happens.
Jacob, as you've watched Miami come to town, you've watched Cincinnati play in Miami, what are you looking forward to in this match with, is it Cincinnati's back line? Is it Cincinnati's attack that you're most, keying in on as being the key to victory against Miami?
Yeah, I think one thing that Cincinnati has that Miami really struggles to defend against is pace. We've seen Luca Orashano absolutely torch them multiple times at TQL Stadium now. Last season in that match here, I mean, he was incredible. Ender Echenike is somebody that I don't think they've played against. I'm not sure when. I don't think that they. So. And we saw Ender Echenike giving Columbus all kinds of fits in this last match. And, he does need to work on his final ball a little bit, but even getting him into spaces where he can make, Miami commit resources to deal with that. And I think the midfield in particular is what I'm always impressed with the most when it comes to when Inter Miami comes to town. Pavel Vuka and Obina have been the ones who have been tasked with just trying to slow that down. And I always think that they do a brilliant job of really commanding the midfield and being like, okay, well, if you're going to beat us, it's not going to be through the middle. I just think they match up really well against Inter Miami with how they have their team built currently. And Coach nailed he's very right about that. I mean, like they know where Messi is at all times, and they always have somebody to account for him. So I don't know what it is about TQL, but I wish it would. I wish they would do it in Miami too.
I'll take it at TQL because that's where the game is being played in a couple of weeks. November 23rd at 5 p.m. I believe they just released the game time. Two questions, Coach. One I have, one that's in the chat that I think is a kind of a tactical thing is how does Samuel Guidi change the game against Miami versus what Jacob was just talking about, Obi Nwobodo being there and just kind of sitting and just being a defensive bulldog back there. We see Guidi going forward a little bit more. How does his style of play change a game like this against Miami?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the Miami back line is not going to press. So what they do is they're going to sit off and try to clog the passing lanes to try to make you play long as opposed to play around them. And Guidi is much better at like getting in those little pockets of space and playing through that pressure instead of just trying to play it over the top or something than Obi. So I think that helps a little bit there. And then you talked about him getting forward more and just causing a guy like Busquets to have to defend more as opposed to being able to leak out a little bit early and try to start counterattacks and things like that. I think that could make a difference. But it'll be interesting to see if against a team of so many veterans with so much star firepower, if Pat, sticks to his guns and plays Guidi or goes back to the well with Obi.
Yeah. The other question we have came early in the show from Rupesh that I've been saving till we get to this segment. He just says, Coach, do you see FCC playing a high line against Miami like they did with the Crew?
Man, I hope so, because you have to, one, be on the front foot and compress space, but two, they have very little team speed. They have a couple guys when they get like Allende or somebody running. So you do have to be aware. But guys like Hagland, if you watch him in the Columbus match, you see him dropping like crazy to stay 5 or 6 yards ahead of Picard as Picard's running, because he knows Picard's going to close that gap as they go. And so that kind of, intelligence, I think it really can help. But yeah, play a high line and force Miami to play a few long balls. And because they're going to have to, they can't play a lot of long balls because they don't have much team speed up top.
Yeah. Something we're looking forward to in this match. One thing we didn't talk much about is in the Columbus game, and then even in this Miami game, Cincinnati has the opportunity to be the last team that several like legendary players face. An MLS legend like Darlington Nagbe, U.S. national team, retired after this game. It was just, I think it was a really respectful crowd at TQL Stadium as people were celebrating Darlington Nagbe and his career. There was one that was maybe not on the field that should have been, and guess who? Diego Rossi, right? But Darlington Nagbe, the last team that he faced is Cincinnati. Cincinnati has the opportunity to be the last team that Sergio Busquets faces, Jordi Alba, who've announced they're retiring at the end of the season. Like, it could be cool, right? If Cincinnati gets to be that team that sends these guys in a respectful way. And I mean this totally respectfully, not like we get to end their career, right? But like, we get to be the last team that these legends face. Like, how cool would that be at the end of that match to see those guys, like their send off was right here in our home stadium. I think that's a pretty cool opportunity. We're getting to the top of the hour here. We had another segment on our international break. We don't have time to really talk about it, but we've got Miles and Roman who are called up to the senior roster national team, along with Columbus players, Arfston, Schulte, and Zawadzki. So I'm just curious, like, what that camp was like yesterday as they traveled the day after Cincinnati sent Columbus home to be on the field together as teammates. We've got Dado Valenzuela called up to the under 21 national team, Teenage Hadeb called up to the Zimbabwe team, and then Stefan Chirilla again called up to the U19 Romanian team. So I just think the talent that's being developed, maybe we're not there with our academy, and people have talked about that academy players moving up through the ranks to the senior roster, but I think it'll come in time. And we've got some players on the roster now that are making a name for themselves there, which I'm pretty excited about that. We're going to get to our final thoughts here in a minute, but if you would like to support Cincinnati Soccer Talk and making the content that we do on our Monday show on Jersey Swap with Jeff Tebbets, the other content, the soccer in our area that you can find on YouTube, visit us at cincinnati-soccertalk.com/support. You can sign up to support us on Patreon that way, or, just be part of what we do behind the scenes. There's a free tier of Patreon. There's paid tiers of Patreon. Would just love to see you over there. Everything we do is released there as well. So thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of what we do. Thanks for being a part of the soccer community. As we wrap up the show, guys, I want to turn it over to you for your final thoughts. And Jacob, you started us off at the top of the show with your best and worst. Start us off with your final thought tonight.
My final thought is I'm just really excited to see how this is going to play out, especially next weekend with the Eastern Conference semifinal. It's another big opportunity to kind of prove that you are a championship caliber team against a team who has a lot of talent and is definitely going to challenge you in some different ways that the Columbus crew did. So I'm just really excited to give them an opportunity, and also no injuries during international break, please.
Right on. Jacob, it was good to have you on the show tonight. Thanks for being a part of it.
I really appreciate you guys having me on tonight.
For sure. Coach, final thoughts?
Yeah, I know there's still work to be done this season because there is a real chance to lift the cup here. Even so, I can't help but think how bright the future looks. There are a lot of young players on this team performing really well, players that haven't technically entered the prime of their career, their prime performance ages, which is generally like 25 to 29. And so, like, outside of Brenner, Ender might have been the best attacker on the field at 21. Geedy was awesome. He played with a lot of energy and played within the game plan. He's 21. And I know Jabari's only a loan, but I hope they pick pick him up because I think he's a great option off the bench. Has tons of potential. He's only 25. Kevin Denke didn't score, but he was so good in hold-up play all night. He's only 24. This team is really good, and I think that even game to game, but especially like year to year, they're just going to get better.
Yeah, good shot there, Coach. The youngsters that Pat is starting to trust and starting to play is good to see them get time and contribute in the ways that they are. For my final thought, I just, as I reflect on our show last week and the commentary on social media, people calling for Pat Noonan's head if we can't get past Columbus, how much difference one game and 1 week makes. I didn't hear a single thing this week about Pat Noonan, at least in the last couple of days. Like, it hit immediately last week, right after the 4-0 loss to Columbus. Like, I get it. People are upset. People are fired up. But after a 2-1 win, another 1-goal win in front of our home crowd, we get the, proverbial monkey off the back, send Columbus home, our rivals in the Hell is Real playoff edition, right? Nobody's talking about Pat Noonan and his job this week, at least so far. And, it's kind of what have you done for me lately is what it feels like a little bit. But I just, we talked about it last week. Let's look at the body of work that Pat Noonan has given to Cincinnati, to the fans, to the team, and a team that is continuing to rise. We talked about at the beginning of the season, like, where would they be at the end of the season? Where did we expect them to be? And we all thought, like, 5th place, 6th place, they'd make the playoffs, but not too far above the line. They go in as a 2nd place team in the East and had a run and an opportunity for the Shield. And we're at the end of the season calling for his head until they send Columbus home. And now we're celebrating. So I just want to keep that in perspective. There's more to go. Certainly, we got to see, what kind of lineup and tactics he rolls out against Miami, and then on beyond that against Philly, and on beyond that in the national or in the MLS Cup Championship, right? But we've had a great season. It's still going. Let's continue to celebrate our team at TQL Stadium in 2 weeks on November 23rd, 5 p.m. kickoff against Miami. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.